She is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me.
Indeed, my sentiments have undergone so material a change that I must ask for your forgiveness.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a monumental stack of source material, the core text, critical commentaries, and historical context, and turn it into pure, distilled insight.
Exactly.
Today, we are plunging deep into the social mechanics and just the brilliant character architecture of Jane Austen's masterpiece, Pride and Prejudice.
It's a dive worth taking because, well, this is a book that inspires profound personal affection from its readers. You know, the critics you shared note that it's not a book we merely love by allowance, but one we feel deeply connected to.
Right.
And while readers debate the merits of Austen's other works, arguing whether, say, Northanger Abbey's narrower scope or the moral complications of Mansfield Park prevent them from achieving true primacy, Pride and Prejudice really stands as the masterclass in social and psychological realism.
Exactly. So our mission, armed with this dense collection of material you've given us, is to synthesize exactly how she pulls off this literary magic. We aren't just summarizing the plot, we're analyzing the foundations of the central characters, you know, the Bennets, the Darcys, the Cullenses, the Wickhams, and meticulously tracing those pivotal events that shatter and then ultimately rebuild the central character's initial judgments.
And the sources provide a powerful initial critical nugget right away. Austen succeeded because she mastered the two things. Only true genius knows humanity and art. Her realism, the source claims, is so potent and immediate that it makes the false realism of our own day look merely dead alive. We really need to figure out what that means.
It's a strong claim. False realism. Okay, let's unpack this idea of her unique literary technique then. The critics are praising her not for those big, sweeping descriptions or, you know, intense psychological monologues, which is often the marker of modern literary realism.
Well, right.
But for tiny, surgically precise details. This, the source argues, is what makes her work truly real.
It's a remarkable distinction, isn't it? Modern realism often relies on blunt exposition or dwelling on the mundane without much purpose. Austen, by contrast, gives us the difference between describing a character's vanity and letting them simply act in a way that perfectly defines their inner workings.
Okay, yeah.
The sources highlight the subtlety. Mr. Collins deciding to switch his romantic pursuit from Jane to Elizabeth precisely while Mrs. Bennet was stirring the fire.
Oh, that detail is phenomenal. Mrs. Bennet stirring the fire. It just grounds the absurdity of Collins's calculated, immediate shift in a physical domestic moment.
Exactly.
It reminds you of this stifling sort of small-town atmosphere where these ridiculous life-altering schemes are hatched. It's like a camera catching a perfect defining moment that defines a character's entire moral landscape.
Or consider the two words used to define Mr. Darcy's awkward formality. He's a man of immense social consequence, yet when he finishes his breakfast, he is described as bringing his coffee cup back himself.
Ah, yeah.
That tiny action that conveys his formality, his self-control, and maybe his inherent isolation, too. These little unforced strokes build the picture like magic, without anything superfluous. It's the literary equivalent of Swift's descriptive touches, using minute details to draw immense satirical conclusions.
And this technique also helps defend her characters who, maybe at first glance, might seem exaggerated, like Mr. Collins and, of course, Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Definitely.
Some critics suggest they are too much, almost caricatures, but our material argues pretty convincingly that their behavior is highly probable given their station and environment.
Absolutely. Just think about the historical context for Lady Catherine. She is an earl's daughter, hugely wealthy, and crucially, a widow.
Right.
She had already been long out of marital authority 100 years before this period. She lived in this isolated social bubble where her word was basically law.
Okay.
She had every opportunity to develop into the self-centered, overbearing figure she is. Her exaggerated nature is really just the logical consequence of unchecked social and economic power filtering through a naturally imperious personality.
It's the result of never being told no, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, let's look at the cornerstone of the long-born family dynamic, Mr. Bennet. The critical view here is incredibly insightful, suggesting that maybe Darcy and Elizabeth were perhaps too hard on him for his impropriety and failure to properly parent.
Yeah, the sources paint his situation as almost impossible. His wife was, and must always have been, an irreclaimable fool. That's the quote.
Wow.
So his only recourse against the constant chaos of her obsession with marrying off their daughters was intellectual retreat and irony hiding in his library.
Uh-huh.
We laugh with him, not at him, because his humorous utterances are, well, the most acutely delightful and the consciously witty kind.
That's a darkly beautiful coping mechanism. It's a flawed one. Take his famous consolation to Mrs. Bennet over the entail.
Ah, yes.
Which, for you listening, if you're not familiar, was the legal arrangement that prevented the estate, Longbourn, from being inherited by his daughters, forcing it instead onto a male relative, Mr. Collins.
Precisely. So his wife is hysterical over the prospect of ruin, and he responds, "My dear, do not give way to such gloomy thoughts. Let us hope for better things. Let us flatter ourselves that I may be the survivor."
It's just a beautifully concise expression of marital weariness combined with this sort of morbid self-preservation. It speaks volumes about the limits of their intimacy.
Totally. And his discerning sense of humor is perfectly aimed at the servility he sees in Mr. Collins, who he views as this fascinating specimen of absurdity.
Right. He asks whether Collins' lavish compliments to Lady Catherine proceed from the impulse of the moment or are the result of previous study. He sees through the facade instantly.
But this is where the criticism against him lies, isn't it? His wit is entertaining, but it's fundamentally passive. He fails to act as a proper authority, and that results in the chaos we see in his younger daughters. Speaking of which, shifting to the rest of the sisters, Austen demonstrates what the source calls unerring skill in differentiating their folly. Mrs. Bennet herself is either exquisitely amusing or more horribly true. Depends on your mood, I guess.
Yeah, she is the product of that chaotic environment. And the younger girls, Kitty and Lydia, they're just easily amused, having minds more vacant than their sisters. They are defined by their desire for attention.
And Austen meticulously contrasts them. Lydia is stout, 15, defined by high animal spirits and perfect indifference to criticism. Her assurance is already boosted by the attention of the local officers.
Right.
Kitty, meanwhile, is simply the anxious follower, constantly worried about missing the excitement and trailing Lydia in her recklessness.
And then there's poor Mary. The sources suggest she is treated even more unkindly by the author than her more reckless sisters.
Yeah, that's true.
She is condemned to a fate we only learn privately, to marry one of Mr. Phillip's clerks. She is left to the tedious habits of copying and retailing moral sentiments, and trying desperately to say something very sensible without knowing how to actually achieve wisdom.
It's a deeply tragic portrait, really. A girl who desires intellectual significance but lacks the genuine insight or social grace to achieve it. Her fate is just mediocrity, a reflection perhaps of the intellectual barrenness that surrounds her when her father retreats.
Okay, so the stage is now set for the main drama of first impressions. The entrance of Charles Bingley instantly sets the tone for admiration and acceptance. He is the standard of amiable sociability, sensible, good-humored, lively, and displays perfect good breeding. He is universally liked for the moment he arrives in Hertfordshire.
He is the catalyst for the entire plot because he is uncomplicated, you see. His immediate success proves how easy it is to be judged favorably when one's manners are flawless.
Right.
And Jane, the eldest, immediately benefits from this. The sources emphasize that Mrs. Bennet is ecstatic because Bingley danced with Jane twice, the only creature he asked a second time. This is Jane's immediate, effortless social triumph.
But where Bingley brings immediate good humor and acceptance, his friend, Mr. Darcy, introduces instantaneous discord with his shocking and aloof rudeness.
Oh, yes.
He is immediately declared by Mrs. Bennet, the voice of unthinking social commentary, to be a most disagreeable, horrid man, not at all worth pleasing. She detests him.
Instantly. His initial pride, however, is analyzed coolly by Elizabeth's practical friend, Charlotte Lucas, who offers an economic and social defense.
Ah, sure.
She grants him a right to be proud, saying one cannot wonder that so very fine a young man with family, fortune, everything in his favor should think highly of himself. This shows the profound acceptance of hierarchical social structure, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a pragmatic excuse for bad behavior based on inherited capital. This contrast is absolutely essential to the novel's core theme. When Darcy attempts to define his own pride, claiming that where there's a real superiority of mind, pride will be always under good regulation, Elizabeth turns away to hide a smile. She sees his pride as fundamentally arrogant, not regulated.
She sees the self-congratulatory nature of his philosophy, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't reject the idea of regulated pride, maybe, but she knows he is failing to regulate his own. However, while Elizabeth is acutely discerning about Darcy, Her judgment is immediately tested by the first warning sign concerning the younger sister's vulnerability: the arrival of the militia regiment in Meryton.
Ah, the redcoats. For Kitty and Lydia, whose minds are more vacant and less focused on intellectual pursuits or securing a good marriage through proper behavior, the sight of these uniforms instantly provides news and happiness.
It's an immediate distraction from the tedious reality of Longbourn.
Yeah. Mr. Bennet, in his characteristic cool observation, notes they must be two of the silliest girls in the country.
He's not wrong.
But Mrs. Bennet, driven by her own history of liking a redcoat, encourages them, proudly dreaming of a match with a colonel earning $5,000 or $6,000 a year.
Oh, yes. She prioritizes the immediate thrilling social success, the attention of the military men over the long-term goal of securing a safe marriage. It's all about the present thrill.
This brings us to the crucial discernment difference between Jane and Elizabeth. Jane is prone to liking people in general, believing everyone is good and agreeable.
Bless her heart.
Elizabeth calls this blindness strange, especially given Jane's good sense in every other area of life.
Jane's goodness is a form of naivety, maybe. Elizabeth, by contrast, is pleased with Jane's relationship with Bingley because she sees Jane's composure of temper and a uniform cheerfulness of manner as protection against the suspicions of the impertinent.
Ah, okay.
She thinks Jane's inherent discretion will guard her from the judgment of Bingley's proud, cynical sisters.
So in a world built on first impressions, Jane's sincerity protects her, but Elizabeth's sharp eye and wit make her susceptible to misplaced judgment, setting the stage for her downfall.
Precisely. Her strength becomes her weakness.
Right. Then the intruders arrive. The entrance of Mr. Collins is perfectly orchestrated to increase the tension at Longbourn.
Oh, perfectly. His arrival is steeped in this mixture of apology and self-importance, exactly the combination Mr. Bennet had been impatient to see from his letter. Collins is the physical embodiment of the entail's threat.
The entail, which we mentioned earlier, is the sword hanging over their heads. It means that when Mr. Bennet dies, Longbourn, their home and income source, passes directly to Mr. Collins, regardless of the daughter's needs.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Collins's visit has 3 stated reasons, all dripping with insincerity.
Oh, totally. First, reconciliation after his father's disagreement with Mr. Bennet. Second, fulfilling his duty as a clergyman to promote peace. And third, apologizing for being next in the entail, though he hopes this loss will be kindly overlooked.
Kindly overlooked.
I know. Mary, ever the moralizer, notes his letter is not defective in point of composition, despite the slightly stale metaphor of the olive branch, highlighting his practiced, formal writing style.
He's practiced, all right, and his devotion to Lady Catherine de Bourgh is boundless. She is his patroness, who approved of his sermons, invited him to quadrille.
A fashionable, complex dance of the time.
Right, and condescended to advise him to marry. He views himself as her courtier, fulfilling his duty by giving her constant lavish compliments.
It's almost sickening. He constantly tells Lady Catherine that her daughter seemed born to be a duchess and that even the most elevated rank would be adorned by her. He believes he's peculiarly bound to pay these delicate attentions, viewing himself as essential to her intellectual satisfaction. His servility is basically a career path.
Just as Collins establishes his particular brand of folly, George Wickham arrives, introducing immediate charm and conflict.
Ah, Wickham.
Elizabeth meets him and finds him instantly agreeable, noting his perfect manners and handsome appearance. She's eager to hear the history of his acquaintance with Darcy, whose pride she already detests.
And Wickham's initial accusation hits Elizabeth right where she's most susceptible, her prejudice against Darcy. Wickham implies Darcy treated him unjustly, despite the elder Darcy having raised him as the son of the family steward. He claims Darcy refused him a promised living, which was a guaranteed church position and income.
Elizabeth is instantly indignant. Wickham frames it as this moral tragedy, to treat in such a manner the godson, the friend, the favorite of his father. For Elizabeth, the story perfectly confirms her low opinion of Darcy. She wants to believe it because it aligns with her first impression.
Exactly. And this information quickly becomes fodder for Meryton gossip. Elizabeth learns that Darcy and Lady Catherine are aunt and nephew, and that Miss Bingley hopes her brother marries Miss Darcy, a girl of immense fortune, to facilitate her own marriage to Mr. Darcy.
Wow.
The social chess game is getting very complicated, and Elizabeth now has a motivation, defending the wronged Wickham, and context. Darcy's arrogance is connected to his powerful relatives to cement her dislike.
Okay, so the climax of Mr. Collins's visit is his incredibly formal, business-like proposal to Elizabeth.
Oh, that's amazing.
His rationale for marriage is delivered like a quarterly business report, prioritizing duty, convenience, and Lady Catherine's specific advice over any hint of affection.
It's a masterpiece of self-absorption. He explicitly tells Elizabeth that Lady Catherine condescended to give me her opinion, unasked to marry an active, useful sort of person, not brought up high, but able to make a small income go a good way.
Right. His idea of a wife is a domestic manager, not a partner.
Not at all. And his motive regarding the Bennets is stated with incredible, cold-hearted clarity. To choose a wife from among the daughters so that the loss to them might be as little as possible when the entail takes effect.
Unbelievable.
He views his marriage as an act of calculated charity, minimizing the damage he will inflict by inheriting their estate.
Yeah. And in a final flourish of conditional generosity that reveals the profound economic constraints on the Bennets, he declares his indifference to her fortune, noting that £1,000 in the 4% is all that you may ever be entitled to.
Right, and for the audience, this needs context. £1,000 was a small sum, barely enough to generate interest, that's the 4% to live on, reinforcing the precariousness of their situation. This is why marriage was such an essential provision.
So Elizabeth's determined refusal leads directly to one of the book's most famous parental conflicts. Mrs. Bennet is hysterical, determined to make her know it, her own financial interest. Collins, meanwhile, demonstrates his self-preserving retraction, questioning whether Elizabeth, if headstrong and foolish, would be a very desirable wife for a man in his elevated situation.
He backpedals immediately, but Mr. Bennet shines here, cutting through the chaos with wit and support.
Yeah, he does.
He tells Elizabeth she must choose, marry Collins and never see him again, or refuse him and he will never see her again. His joke, of course, confirms his support and recognition of Collins's absurdity.
However, the real shock, which forces Elizabeth to confront the harsh economic reality she often ignores, is Charlotte Lucas's subsequent decision.
Ah, yes.
She accepts Collins after only 3 days. Elizabeth is astonished, viewing the match as a sacrifice of every better feeling to worldly advantage.
Charlotte's rationalization is stark social realism, isn't it? It embodies the necessity that Elizabeth refuses to acknowledge. She views marriage as the only honorable provision for well-educated young women of small fortune and the pleasantest preservative from want. She knows Collins is neither sensible nor agreeable, but he offers security and a home. The critical sources note that this choice is Austen's brutal commentary on the desperation faced by women in this era.
This realization sets the stage for the dramatic fallout at the Netherfield ball. Elizabeth is crushed by Wickham's absence, which he later admits was self-imposed to avoid Darcy,
Right.
leaving her to the awkward and solemn Mr. Collins for 2 dreadful dances, a social mortification.
Ugh, painful.
Yeah.
Then Darcy claims her hand, forcing a crucial and painfully awkward conversation where his true first impression of Elizabeth is revealed.
What does he say?
He suggests her fault is willfully to misunderstand them, meaning she deliberately misinterprets him and his motives based on her own pride and her desire to find him offensive.
Ouch. That interaction really foreshadows the explosive clash later in Kent, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The battle lines are drawn.
Okay, so our sources indicate that the momentum shifts dramatically once Elizabeth leaves Longbourn and travels to Kent. We get the first hint that Elizabeth's judgment of Darcy might be fatally flawed when Colonel Fitzwilliam casually reveals Darcy's recent intervention in a friend's life.
Yeah, Fitzwilliam explains that Darcy had recently saved a friend, clearly Bingley, from a very imprudent marriage by pointing out very strong objections against the lady.
And the key insight here is that Darcy acted not maliciously, but because he genuinely believed the family connections made Jane an unsuitable match for his friend.
Right. He thought he was doing the right thing for Bingley.
But Elizabeth's indignation is explosive, fueled by Jane's heartache. She demands to know why was he to be the judge, and accuses his interference of being officious.
Understandably, from her perspective.
This confirms her belief that he ruined Jane's happiness and caused Bingley's absence, cementing her hatred just moments before his unexpected arrival.
And this revelation comes just moments before Darcy's first proposal, the absolute height of his pride. He visits Elizabeth at the Collins parsonage, clearly agitated, a man battling his own affections against his sense of social duty and birthright.
The proposal itself is just a masterpiece of rhetorical failure, isn't it? While he speaks well of his ardent love, he is equally eloquent on his sense of her inferiority, of its being a degradation, of the family obstacles.
It's incredible. He speaks of his inclination being opposed by his judgment. He loves her despite her family.
Elizabeth's rejection is swift and devastating, filled with righteous anger. She doesn't just say no, she attacks him personally.
Right.
She accuses him of ruining Jane's life and maliciously injuring Wickham. She tells him that from the first moment, his arrogance, conceit, and disdain formed the groundwork of a dislike that made him the last man in the world whom I could ever be prevailed on to marry.
Boom. It's brutal. Darcy's immediate defense, delivered in his subsequent letter, is defiant but necessary for the reader's understanding.
Right, the letter.
He confesses doing everything in my power to separate my friend from your sister and rejoices in my success, believing he was kinder than towards myself by saving Bingley from the Bennet family connection. Crucially, the letter explains Wickham's true character. Wickham had tried to elope with Darcy's 15-year-old sister, Georgiana, solely for her immense fortune.
This completely upends Elizabeth's discernment. She learned she was a fool for trusting the charming soldier and prejudiced against the stiff gentleman.
Total reversal. But the drama escalates quickly. The family crisis, Lydia's elopement, hits Longbourn like a bomb, confirming every social fear.
Jane's hurried letter confirms that Wickham never intended to go there or to marry Lydia at all. The fear is that she is lost forever, meaning ruined, socially ostracized, and having brought permanent disgrace upon her entire family.
This is the moment Mr. Bennet's passive irony completely collapses. Mrs. Bennet is emotionally really ill and frightened out of my wits.
Yeah.
Mr. Bennet, deeply distressed, leaves for London to find them, but his sources claim his excessive distress will not allow him to pursue any measure in the best and safest way. He is paralyzed by his own prior detachment and recognized failings. The family honor is at stake, and he cannot save it.
The revelation of the full truth arrives via Mrs. Gardiner's subsequent letter, detailing Darcy's astonishing and unexpected generosity.
It's amazing. Darcy tracked the couple to London, tracing them through Mrs. Young, Miss Darcy's former governess, whom Wickham used to hide Lydia.
Wow.
Darcy found Lydia absolutely resolved on remaining where she was. Wickham confessed he had never intended marriage, hoping to marry for fortune later, and if that failed, he'd flee the regiment and let Lydia become his mistress, completely ruining her.
Good grief.
This is where Darcy performs the true miracle. He personally settled Wickham's substantial gambling and other debts, settled an additional £1,000 on Lydia, and purchased Wickham's commission, forcing him to marry.
This action was incredibly costly, both financially and personally humiliating.
Hugely. Darcy's astonishing rationale for the bribe is explained clearly. He blames himself. He states his mistaken pride and reserve had kept Wickham's worthlessness hidden. Because he didn't expose Wickham earlier, he felt it was his duty to step in and remedy the evil which had been brought on by his silence.
This is Elizabeth's profound epiphany, her painful absolute change in perspective. She realizes, I who have prided myself on my discernment, vanity, not love, has been my folly. Till this moment, I never knew myself.
It's a powerful moment.
Yeah.
This isn't just about realizing Darcy is good. It's about realizing the foundation of her entire self-perception. Her quick judgment and superior wit was built on the shaky ground of vanity.
She realizes Darcy acted out of affection for her, though she finds the shame of having Wickham as a brother-in-law and the scale of the obligation almost unbearable.
Yeah.
This realization is the true turning point of the novel. The moment pride, Darcy's initial proposal, and prejudice, Elizabeth's misplaced judgment, are defeated by self-knowledge and generosity.
Following the crisis, Lydia and Wickham returned to Longbourn after the forced marriage, exhibiting a shocking, easy assurance.
That's unbelievable.
Their immediate priority is social validation, not repentance. The sources emphasize their moral vacuum.
Mrs. Bennet, meanwhile, is hilariously and immediately ecstatic, concerned only with the optics of success.
Mrs. Wickham, how well it sounds. Oh, she's incorrigible.
She is eager to write orders for calico and cambric immediately, demonstrating her inability to grasp the moral depth of the crisis they just narrowly escaped.
Mr. Bennet is the opposite, critical of his own failings and his failure to maintain order. Who should suffer but myself? It has been my own doing. His prior ironic retreat has turned into painful self-blame.
Lydia, entirely unrepentant, casually boasts of her adventure, demonstrating a complete lack of shame. Good gracious, when I went away, I'm sure I had no more idea of being married till I came back again. Though I thought it would be very good fun if I was.
Wow. And, crucially, she lets slip that Mr. Darcy attended the wedding, forcing Elizabeth to confront the enormity of his sacrifice.
Before Darcy can explain his attendance, Lady Catherine delivers the final high-stakes social test.
Enter the dragon.
She drives to Longbourn in a fury to demand Elizabeth promise never to marry Darcy, citing the disgrace of Lydia's infamous elopement as a permanent stain on the family.
This confrontation is Elizabeth's final victory over the old order. She is entirely defiant.
How so?
She refuses to be intimidated, reminding Lady Catherine that she is a gentleman's daughter. So far, we are equal. Her refusal to bend to rank and wealth is the perfect contrast to Mr. Collins's servility.
That's a great point.
This refusal, Darcy later reveals, was the very thing that gave him hope. He explains that if she had intended never to marry him, she would have been absolutely irrevocably decided and would have promised Lady Catherine peace. Since she refused to promise, he knew she was at least open to the possibility.
Amazing. So the resolution happens quickly thereafter. Bingley returns, fully influenced by Darcy's corrected judgment, and proposes to Jane.
And Mr. Bennet's blessing is characteristic. He worries their compliant and generous natures will lead them to always exceed your income. Still witty even then.
And Mr. Bennet is initially amused by Mr. Collins's letter, which mentions the rumors of Elizabeth and Darcy, calling the idea delightfully absurd.
Yeah, he laughs, pointing out that Darcy never looks at any woman but to see a blemish. This shows the depth of his prejudice against Darcy, making Elizabeth's subsequent acceptance difficult for him to grasp at first.
When Darcy's second proposal is accepted, this time delivered with humility and respect, Elizabeth confesses to Jane that her love has been coming on so gradually that I hardly know when it began, but I believe I must date it from my first seeing his beautiful grounds at Pemberley.
A wonderful moment of self-deprecating levity before assuring Jane she is perfectly serious. The grounds of Pemberley symbolize the true taste and hidden generosity she saw in his estate.
Yeah. The final irony, however, belongs to Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Oh, absolutely. Darcy explains that her interference was the means of removing all my doubts, making her happy because she loves to be of use, even in failing to prevent his marriage.
Her effort to maintain the social hierarchy accidentally facilitated its breakdown. Perfect.
It really is.
The overall conclusion is a happy one, but it is realistic. Mrs. Bennet remains occasionally nervous and invariably silly, having learned nothing about moral restraint.
Nope, nothing.
And Elizabeth looks forward to the comfort and elegance of their family party at Pemberley, away from the constant chaos and the society so little pleasing to either. The resolution is found not in changing the world, but maybe in escaping the constraints of Longbourn.
That journey from immovable dislike based on prejudice and arrogance to genuine esteem-based love accelerated and authenticated by the sheer magnitude of a family crisis, that's the central dynamic here. Elizabeth went from believing Wickham's charming lies to realizing she was blind, partial, prejudiced, absurd. The cost of her initial vanity was nearly catastrophic.
Austen provides us with an extraordinary shortcut to understanding complex human motivation through these hyper-specific social details and incredibly sharp dialogue.
She really does.
You see how quickly initial judgments crumble when genuine character is revealed under immense pressure. It's a testament to why these sources call her work true genius.
Absolutely. The level of detail allows us to internalize the social physics of the world she created. It feels real.
And as we close this deep dive, let's return to the source of the initial family catastrophe.
Mr. Bennet.
Yes, back to him. We saw him retreat into his library as an ironic escape from his wife and the younger girl's chaos. He himself admits that Lydia's recklessness was ultimately his own doing.
Yeah, he takes the blame.
His celebrated wit and ironic detachment, while delightful to the reader, proved to be an inadequate substitute for responsibility, necessitating Darcy's massive, humbling, and costly intervention to save the family honor.
So the question remains, was Mr. Bennet's lauded sense and irony in the face of his family's needs truly a profound moral and practical failure? His detachment was his shield, but it left his daughters unprotected.
It's something to consider, isn't it? The next time you face a difficult choice between maintaining a clever, detached perspective and actively taking the messy responsibility that true affection and sense demand, which is the greater form of pride, the arrogance of status, or perhaps the arrogance of wit?